going forward, I'm just going to start recording so we get as much content as possible, even if it's just chats and conversation, because we
So
don't know what's
just
going
like
to
the other
happen.
podcast, we're not going to cut out the beginnings, and we're just going to jump straight
No,
into a chat. No, of course, let's make it
it's going to
real.
be the style of it. It just go straight into whatever random thing we're talking about at that given moment.
Well, the current random thing for those that weren't with us 10 seconds before we hit record, we're talking about how this we're trying to jumpstart some sort of huge engine with few people and begin something. It's actually just do something.
Yeah, yeah. Was the comparison trying to start up a behemoth with a crankshaft? It's it's big. I mean, there's nothing you can do about the potential size of it, but it's like if we had infinite resources, then we might be able to engage a management company like to do the marketing as some sort of consultancy to just focus on marketing and just focus on operations or other sides of the business. But literally, it's like how many arms and legs can you grow? How many levers can you put at the same time whilst doing
Yeah.
other stuff as well? So yeah, that this is intended to be a bit of a project update call, and literally that's the project. It's me running around like a headless chicken, trying to do things with this app that I've put not all my money in, but a substantial investment in to try and do something.
So welcome to episode 3 of the e-lectorate research project
That's a
podcast.
reality.
And I think this is a down to reality. Have a chat. I mean, it's a startup. There's limited resources. There's you. You have this dream. I guess it's a change the world sort of dream. Get people involved, make things happen, create a platform where it is now a digital voting platform where things can be voted up, legislation can change, or because of technology, because it is there. And we're still in the age where we are not using technology to vote in the ways that we can. Yes, there's the kind of, I guess, let's call them older generations or people that do not use technology, maybe a barrier to entry a little bit, but otherwise, you've started this thing, put it out there. Um, where are you with it? What's going on?
Um, so we've got MVP. So we talked about in the previous podcast, minimum.
Minimum viable product.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So we're there. Um, and so that's like I would it's a skeleton, but it's like as little of a skeleton as you could possibly have. Like I don't even think we've put all the bones on it yet. Um, and so we're still testing and we're still trying to get people on board. And that's where we are. We're on the how many people will find it interesting, how many people can we get started on the project, how many people can we convince to give us a shot and download the app to begin with. And that's proving really difficult. I'm not a marketeer by trade. I the thought kind of scares me a little bit about marketing and putting yourself out there and all that type of stuff. So I'm a little bit concerned that we haven't got huge amounts of users, and I have to try and convince myself it's a process. But we want more people to test out and try it, and it is a dream to what you said. It is a dream, but it is also a research project as well, and it's not like we've created the next Facebook. We are trying to see if people will engage with a democratic process online, and that's it. And I have found myself flip-flopping from one day it's the best idea in the world, the next day it's total crap and no one's going to use it, and then like a minute later trying to convince myself no it's really good and carry on with it. So that's where I am. I mean, that kind of limbo flip flop stage of is this good or is it a big waste of time? And the thing that's going to say if it's good or not is more users. And we have got users. We have got users who aren't my friends and family now who are downloading it. But we just don't have that big wave of users who use it on a regular basis, maybe
Can it
daily.
handle? Can it handle it? Yeah. Can it handle it?
Yeah, totally. I mean,
Yeah.
well, we don't know, so let's find out, right? Let's get as many users on as possible. The platform is scalable, but we're not going to know until we get there.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think he can handle it.
So people get people aboard, do stuff. I mean, we were chatting before we hit record, and you're saying, you're wearing so many hats, and you'd love to delegate stuff to people, but you're at that stage. It's like super micro startup with an enormous beast. And it's just do stuff. It's just like, it's not about handing over hats. It's just about doing stuff.
Yeah.
Get into the thick of it. Let people know. Get them on board. Get them check it out. Give all feedback. What they like. What don't they like? How do we change it? And then the more, I guess, eyes on you have, the more likelihood that you have some sort of um, leverage for funding. Is that what you're looking for?
Yeah. So to continue your analogy and then put it in almost like a VC context, we're a seed stage. So we're
Yeah.
seed stage startup. So yes, we could grow into a big oak tree, pine tree, redwood, whatever metaphor you want to use, but we are this big at
Yeah.
the moment. So we need to have scalability, and to do that you have to have funding, and to do that you have to demonstrate value, and you demonstrate value by having people engaging with your product. So it's a pretty vicious cycle.
Yeah.
We want to have the user groups to show to funding firms. If we can't find it ourselves, we do try and take donations to the project. Like, people really believe in what we're doing. I think we've got a really powerful message, so we do try and self-fund a lot. We've got NFTs for sale. I know someone was having to go at me on Twitter for having an NFT because only scam artists have NFTs. Justification to, like, are you sure you're not a scammer getting people to buy NFT? I did these NFTs on Paint. Help me out here. I'm just trying to get money any way I can. So
Yeah.
we do try and self-fund, but I think if we want to get to where we want to go to eventually, we're going to need some sort of backing. So we are presenting ourselves to VCs, but we're just trying to do as much as we can. We need to keep momentum behind it. We kind of recognize there's a process. We dipped our toe into social advertising. So maybe someone is unfortunate enough to come across our YouTube advertising or our Twitter advertising. We might do more of that. That's very costly. And we're looking at kind of the return on investment for that at the moment, but we have boosted our following on Twitter, for example. So there might be some legs in it, but we have a limited amount of runway, and obviously the longer runway you've got, the more you can do, and the further you can go for longer. But our runway, it's probably not even a runway, it's probably like a helipad where you've got to do like a virtual takeoff. And we're trying to launch, use your metaphor, like a big rocket off this tiny little helipad.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's maybe where we're going wrong at the moment.
So the seed so far is planted in was it Sequoia National Park? Like, it's in California, not quite Silicon Valley, but trying to go into something big. But it does have a helipad where you're trying to plant a rocket as well in there to shoot it off. Okay,
It's a very complicated space at the moment, James, as you can tell.
that is quite complicated to even the analogy to it. So what have you done to further things? I mean, you've been in one place. I think I saw a message. Twitter is up and running, and you are tweeting about the platform and trying to encourage users there. But I think you did something else. Didn't you send a couple of letters?
Yeah, so we did an email campaign. So I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but I'm going to say it anyway. So we went as part of creating all the profiles on the e-lecture platform, the automated profiles that are there, and people can claim if they're part of the body that creates the automated profiles, or they can if they're an MP or some sort of elected representative, they can claim it as well. As part of getting all the names and the titles and the addresses, we got our email addresses for these people and places as well. So all B2B stuff, contacting elected representatives, etc.
Yeah.
So in compliance with direct marketing regs. But we sent out an email campaign to say, look, we exist. You have a profile. Why don't you claim it? And we sent a link to them where they could click it, claim their profile, fill out a quick form, and then we would give them ownership of their profile. So whether that's the Ministry of Defence or the MP for Aberavon, we would give them the profile kind of ready made, ready set up, and then they can just start posting content out of it.
Yeah.
We had how many emails we sent out? We sent about 650 MP emails, but there's obviously more MPs than that, but we couldn't find emails for some of them.
Sure.
Um, we had about
That's a big job. That's a massive job just to find the email addresses of all of the MPs. You're going into every constituency profile, clicking through multiple pages, and then getting there. Here's the contact us, and dare I say it, most, if not a lot, of those MP email addresses are actually curated by someone else, like a PA, or it's like a
mm,
filter to them. You're never actually getting directly to them, and they use
oh,
different sources.
totally. So one of the really surprising things was how many MPs are pretty much uncontactable. They have an email address, but
Yeah.
um, there are so many layers of emails you have to go through because as soon as we sent it out, we sent about 650. We got 650 automatic replies saying, I receive hundreds and thousands of emails a day. I can't possibly respond to them all. If your emails of interest, we'll get back to you. Or other MPs saying, verify that you're really a person by filling out this form.
Yeah.
So there are lots of layers there. And then we even tried picking up the phone and calling some of their constituency offices, and they're harder to speak to. Some of the officers don't pick up. Some of them ask you
Yeah.
to message. So we're nothing special. We're as equal as everyone else, but it just kind of shows how hard it is to reach your MP or try and get a meeting with them or just try and get their attention. It's difficult, probably because they're busy, right? They're running the country after all. But it does make you think, is this the best way to have things set up? But anyway, by the
Yeah.
by, so we sent out all these emails. We got all these automatic replies. We did some cold calling, and not one MP has come back to us to say, yes, I want to own my profile. And that was about, we sent them on Wednesday last week. So um, additional statistic of those 650 that we sent out, only 100 people got the email. We know that they've opened it because the email software lets us see that. So
Yeah.
only 100 of that 600. So we can only assume that the rest of the 500 weren't interested in it at all.
Yeah.
We had a lot of people unsubscribe. We had a lot of even public bodies unsubscribe as well. So
Wow.
I think it just shows that the people who are receiving this email aren't seeing the value, aren't seeing kind of the dream and the vision and what we're trying to do here. But we are nothing but persistent. So we won't obviously contact people that have unsubscribed, but we'll try and speak to these institutions in different ways. Maybe we
Yeah.
learn our lesson to say email is not the right way to contact these people. We need to be a bit more obvious or a bit more um, tactful in our approach.
Yeah.
Um, so that was a big thing that happened. Yeah, like I said, last Wednesday, some contacted MPs, public bodies, and political parties as well,
All
who are also
right.
quite difficult to find email addresses for. And again, we didn't have a very good response from the ones that we sent. So yeah, it's been some challenging marketing because a big part of what we want to do is get MPs on board and get the ruling class on board, so we can bridge that gap between the
Yeah.
people and their elected leaders. They are very difficult people to reach. So the other thing that we've been doing is the social media advertising, and we set up the Twitter account. And if you're listening to this podcast, which at the moment not many people do, but you can follow us on Twitter at e-lectorate proj, PROJ. They wouldn't let me have project, and they wouldn't let me have a hyphen in there as well. So it's just at electorate proj. You can find us on Twitter. We're always tweeting and looking to do some paid social advertising. And we increased our following by like 10 times when we did one very cheap campaign. So we'll
Yeah.
probably do, I think realistically we can do either lots of little ones or one really big one.
Yeah.
So we might do one really big one to lots of people, and that might be the extent of the marketing we can achieve. But we've just been focused on new user acquisition. for the time being. So just hammering that one as hard as we possibly can.
So it's basically the learning curve of, well, how do you set up what is, well, it looks a lot like a social media platform. Yes, it's a research project. Is there a willingness to engage in this kind of platform? But essentially, I think everyone will sort of see it as a social network platform. Um, and is there room for another? Is there room for this type of thing? I mean, what's the, I guess, branding, messaging around what it is for people? Because, yeah, a lot of people know what research is and research projects are, but maybe some people don't. And they could be going, well, what's this thing? They open it as a feed. How do they get that information about what it actually is that they're getting involved with?
Yeah, so it's a good shout. So I might actually show you some bits, James, if you're open to it.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, please.
Share my screen. This is something new for the podcast. Um, but if I'm going to open two things. I'm going to open what I've started to work on from a proposition side of things, and then I'm also just going to show the website, because the website is the kind of home for this. So I need to work out how to share my screen. It's this button here. Here we go. So James, the classic, can you see this?
I can.
So this is the e-lecturate project website. So you can go to it by going to e-lectureproject.uk. That's the domain.
Yeah.
And you can see what it is we're trying to do. So this is the homepage. So we try to make a nice landing page where you can download the mobile apps directly to your device. Interestingly, the Apple One works on Mac. And then some just very basic information about the project. You can actually
Yeah.
read the research paper here. So if you're actually interested in what the research paper is all about, this takes you to our blog post where we first posted it, and you can just read this straight from your browser. Should be able to anyway. And that's downloaded it. There's another way you can read our research paper, and that's if you go to the about section, literally just
Oh
click
yeah.
PDF icon, and here it is. So document control is always fun. So you can see that we're trying to answer some really clear questions, which is, will people in the UK interact with the social network centered around politics? Can the electorate project improve engagement in politics? Can the electorate project improve representative democracy? Can the electorate project create a more direct democracy? And could people vote online? So those are our four key research questions to begin with. Then we talk about how we're going to go about doing it. We talk about what type of evaluation we've got, and then we do a bit of a risk assessment towards the end, in which we highlight that a lack of users is going to hamper us significantly. So if you're interested in taking a look at the site, check us out, e-lectureproject.uk. You've got direct links to our YouTube. You can talk about my origin story, have a read of that. And you can support the project by purchasing the NFTs. And if you are a public institution who has lots of profiles on the site, you can contact us to claim your profile using this form. So that's us as a research project where you can find out a bit more information. But for you personally, James, what I'll do is just go through a bit of our it's not really a pitch deck, it's like an overview presentation that I've put together. So again,
I guess what's coming to my mind is what will people get out of it? Because there's got to be this sort of feedback loop. I mean, there's been lots of talk and documentaries about, the dopamine tickle that people have when they're using social media, and the algorithm gets hold of their personality, if you like, and then shows them what they think is most relevant to them or most likely to keep them on the platform and things. Have you got any sort of algorithms like that behind it, or any sort of kind of where
no,
do you sit in that?
no, so we don't have that stuff at the moment, and then I really have to strongly consider whether we'd want to go down that route, because my biggest hate, and it is a hate, with social media platforms is that they don't show things chronologically. And I'm a person
Yeah.
of absolute logic, right? Logic beyond everything. And for me, I at times I want to see, okay, yeah, you recommended this for me based on things that I like, or I followed this, I might also be interested in this, or this is trending in the world. And I think
Yeah.
there's a place for that as an option. But I don't want my default setting to be, here's all the predictive analysis we've done about your behaviors, and therefore we're throwing this bit of garbage content at you.
Yeah.
So I very much took that philosophy to the product and the development of it. And so you won't see suggested for you type profiling. And because of the nature of the data that we're dealing with, we probably won't go into that space because of its potential for harm.
Yeah.
If you familiar with the Cambridge Analytica Facebook case, that was about all of these different third parties leveraging the data that they obtained via Facebook to sell political advertisements and influencing elections. So we don't want to get into that space. Although we're an election politics debating
Well,
platform.
yeah, I kind of want to jump in there. So sorry to cut you off. It's almost you're the antithesis to it in some ways. You want to influence elections, but you don't want to influence the electorate by manipulation to choose a certain way to vote. You want it the other way around. You actually want the policies being dictated by the way the users of the platform are voting within the platform, or pressing the up sign, for
Yeah,
example, so they can then have an influence on it. So I kind of say you're probably the antithesis of that, and I get it, the very sort of, raw, blunt. This is what's going on right now. Here's the feed. Here's where you can get that information. Here's what people are saying about it. If you know this person, then you can see that they may have voted on something as well. So she may be influenced by genuine individuals that do have an opinion, that you may respect as well. But I also like one of the functions on there where you can remain anonymous in your votes as well. You've built that in there.
mm,
So yeah, it's fascinating. I think it's almost the antithesis of a Cambridge Analytica story, because you're not using people's data to manipulate them in some ways. You're trying to get people to use their data to manipulate the government and decision making.
exactly. We want almost the reverse of it, where it's
Yeah,
the people use their data, or they generate data to influence the decision makers, not the decision makers use data to influence the
yeah,
vote electorate. So that's a really good point. And the voting anonymity is so important to me, and it's why I pushed for it quite hard in the polling that you're able to do on the platform, because no one should know what you voted for ever unless you're prepared to tell them. And it's almost the problem I have with voter ID, although I know that that's more for, are you able to vote? But it has this really nasty possibility of function creep into, okay, we know you were authorized to vote, but who did you actually vote for? And in our opinion, particularly governments should never, ever, ever know that information. So anonymity is a really big thing for us as well. And all this stuff we're talking about is relating to our values as an organization and as a platform. We don't want to be exploitative. We don't want to manipulate people. We want the platform to work for everyone. So we want individuals with voices to be able to get the most out of the platform. And we do want political parties to get the most out of their platform, but we want there to be clear lines of separation and air gaps and areas that we just do not go into because of the risk to the individuals on the platform, to society as a whole. It's just too great. You can really see that this could be a tool for mass manipulation, and that is my biggest fear, which is why I'm glad that at the moment we don't have investors crawling over us talking about ROI and exploiting data for profitable gain. And I think the greed element of profitable gain could lead us down some dark roads. So it's why I'm also a bit reluctant to get people on board with backers, financial backers. But all of this stuff is exactly what we're trying to do, in that we're a almost wholesome, feel
yeah,
free to be safe on this platform. This is a safe environment to engage in political debate, and we try and articulate that in our code of conduct as well.
I think maybe the right backers, because there are going to be people and influential individuals with money to do something like this and help you do something like this, because there's been lots of reports that our democracy is broken. Let's be honest about that. Things are not going in the direction that the masses per se want, and so it's just stuck to what is thought is the direction of the country and what some polls come out with, and um, we're a bit all over the place. And I think everybody sort of knows that it's that sort of hyper normalization. The government is knows that we're not all that engaged or think we have much of a say in things, and then we also, as an electorate, we accept that and we look back at the government and go, yeah, we know that that we don't have much of a say in things, but we're going to go along with this anyway, and we'll just keep this strange status quo where nothing much changes. We just end up with more of the same repackaged in a more technological manner. So
Yeah.
maybe that's a little bit dark and defeatist, but one of the things that was quite interesting about something that popped up recently is the fact that there's likely to be some sort of it's not necessarily voter ID, but and I think I found it via the electorate platform, in fact, on one of the feeds, and that's the sharing of data between all government departments to be able to be interoperable, and you have like a single sign-on for all of your government IDs and services. So everything from benefits to tax to car insurance, not insurance, car tax, council tax, and other things that are just normal interactions that individuals don't always kind of relate the political angles to these things, but into a single sign-on platform, and so making everything much quicker. And that's been developed over the last 6 to 12 months, and they're kind of moving forward quite quickly to make that happen. I know in New Zealand they've been doing this kind of thing for a while, but over here we haven't, so we may even be a little bit behind. But having that kind of single voter ID access, but then protecting the privacy of those individuals that you're talking about. The government should not know which way you vote, but it would love to know which way you vote so it can work out who you are and then manipulate you in another way and put the right, I guess, signals and images and adverts in front of you to make you think in a certain way, and so you're likely to vote in a certain way. And we've seen that quite a bit over the long term. So that there's a lot in there and a lot of possibilities with this, but I think it still comes down to, well, where can we actually, aside from our singular vote once every 4 years, have any sort of true influence outside of our commercial influence of buying stuff and
Mm.
having those organizations that have the most money lobby and then help the decision-making process of your local MP to do something probably more on behalf of a commercial enterprise than the individuals that actually live in that constituent. So, I guess I see an idea like this as being something that could tackle that, could look at that, but then is also maybe slightly dangerous.
Totally. I mean, everything is wrapped in danger with this thing. Is why it has to be handled with kid gloves. But the point you're making around bridging the gap and people feeling like they haven't got a voice and therefore they're not participating and therefore they're apathetic, and this is exactly the problem that we've identified. So when we're thinking about who we are as an organization and what we do, our kind of insight is that people are removed from the democratic system and don't have the ability to influence and act, and really the ruling class, because that's what they are, the ruling class are not able to listen because because they're selective in what they listen. There's no true measure of public opinion. I saw a really interesting uh, select committee session with Mick Lynch, the head of the RMT,
Yeah.
and one of the committee members put it to him and said, "Oh, well, the public don't support your strike action based on this poll." And he said, well, if you look at this poll, then they do. So which poll are you looking at? And I find that really interesting because it's like, well, yeah, what poll are you looking at? And you must have seen it as well. When you see it pop up on TV, on the news, 4 out of 10 people think this, and think, how have you possibly got to that number when I wasn't asked the question? And they
Yeah.
sample it, take a representative sample of the population and then expand that out, which is like cheating in a lot of ways. But you do have to admit, well, what's the alternative? How else do they get to those figures? So it is based in a degree of logic. But people being removed from particularly a democratic system, we call ourselves a democracy, and if you hear the prime minister's phraseology he uses to describe uh you know justifying things like our defense of Ukraine, he talks
Yeah.
about defending democracy, and defending democracy wherever it is, and that's a key value. We're a democratic society. And you just think, well, are we? Yeah, we elect people once every 4 years, but other than that, if you're not a part of a lobbying group, do you really have a say? There was another interesting article posted recently by, I think it was Open Democracy, which said it's unfair to ask poorer people to give up their time to participate in democracy. And it's like, yeah, well, of course, because they're focused on surviving, right? They're focused on where they're going to eat, or the energy crisis, and you're thinking, well, how do we spend less time on political participation and democratic participation, but get better results out of it? And
Yeah.
so we're trying to solve this problem of a lack of engagement, but a lack of means to engage, to make ultimately what we think is better uh, decisions based on a better democratic way of being, and democratic way
Yeah.
of running society. So it's not like we've got big transformational aims for UK society or anything. I don't want it to seem that way. We're just trying to give people a voice, and then the ruling class the tools they need to measure their voice and measure opinion and make good
I,
quality
I
decisions from that.
I think by default you end up saying that you almost do because of a platform like this. The aims of change, that absolutely upgrade the system so it is more representative of kind of all classes and all individuals within a locality, a country, any location really. So I'm not sure. I'm completely with you on the ambition isn't to change things, but then I think by default anyway, you've sort of hit something that has the potential to do so. Then you can't really get away from the fact that it's likely in and of itself to
Well,
change things.
yeah, and that's probably a fair point, to be honest. Maybe I'm just trying to duck for cover. It's this is what a democracy is. A democracy is everyone having their say, and so I would describe myself as a democratic absolutist, right? I believe in the power of democracy above all else,
Yeah.
as a system for making decisions in any society. And you can get simple majorities, qualified majorities, and all the detail around how you consider things and votes. But at its core, if you're not going to the people and making decisions in the best interest of all the people in accordance with what the majority of the people want, however you qualify that, then you're not a democracy. And so that's the purpose of this, is to be a better democracy. And if we
Yeah.
say we already are a democracy, then this shouldn't be a big thing. But if we think we're so far removed from being a democracy and being a democratic society, then yeah, potentially it is a really big change. So this is our insight. This is our problem statement which we've identified as an organization. And we realize that people don't have access to the democratic system, but we think that a better democracy is better for society in general, for all the points that I mentioned. So yeah, we created an app, right? Because how are you going to get people's thoughts and opinions on a large scale without engaging with them, without having a tool to be able to measure opinion? And one of the biggest issues with direct democracy is it's just a logistical impossibility. Until we had the internet and technology and all these great weird and wonderful things we've got on our phones and devices today. So yeah, we built an app to try and solve this problem.
Yeah, it still strikes me that the power that it could have is immense. It's completely incredible. And well, what is next? I know it's kind of it's marketing, it's getting out there, it's getting people on there, but how? I mean,
That is the
that's a
that's the million
conundrum right
dollar
now, isn't it?
question. And
That's the
and
million
and
dollar question. Yeah.
how is the bit I keep banging my head against the wall. This is the really frustrating thing. It's like I can't be the only one who has a organization that is doing something great, and they just can't get people to listen and to see it and to engage with it. It's a real big problem, and it might be our Achilles heel and weakness, and it might be the thing that sinks the whole project, that we just can't get people on there. um I think I feel like I would have failed pretty significantly to not get people interested in this, given the current climate and how many people I know are politically engaged in the country as a whole. It would be pretty weak stuff if we weren't able to capture them. But it's like we did our first podcast recording um, between the Christmas and New Year period. I think, literally on New Year's Eve, I think we did it.
It's New Year's Eve.
And
Yeah.
now we're 2 weeks later. So potentially I'm being a bit ambitious and
I
frustrated.
was gonna call you out on that. Yeah. I mean, 2 weeks is nothing. Yeah.
But it's like I feel like it's the equivalent of inviting everyone to your birthday party and then no one shows up. Like that's what I feel like it is at the moment. But I think we throw a good enough party, anyone's going to show up. So that's what we're trying to do at the moment.
To have to create the machinations of an amazing party, and then they'll have a look and check it out.
Yeah,
But
build it and they will come.
but yeah, build it and they come. I mean, in some ways, yes, in some ways, no. I mean, it's got to hit that. It's got to go viral somehow in some way, and there's probably got to be some ridiculous standout. I don't know, like a flash mob somewhere where people just jump into dance and give out QR codes to get people on there. So I mean, how do all these things start? How did
Yeah.
Facebook start? How did Twitter start? How did TikTok start? How did and I guess there's probably a big step in there where a good amount of time right at the beginning of all these organizations, not much happened. However much you want to see the Hollywood, like the social network, and like, wow, it just exploded. It was like
Yeah, well, that
phenomenal.
happened in an hour and a half, didn't it? They went from coding in their college dorm room to running Facebook in an hour and a half. So why is it taking
Yeah,
so long?
it was incredible what they did there. But that's the thing. Then suddenly there's backers, and then suddenly there's kind of the qualified individuals. Not yourself or myself are unqualified and things, but kind of systems and processes of marketing, of branding, of getting things in front of people. How do you get in touch with the billboard advertisers and get a billboard printed and up, and how does that work, and XYZ, and
Yeah,
all the other ways of doing that. And can you get people like influencing on your behalf on TikToks, and how do you get them to do that kind of stuff and see the value in it? But I think what was really in my mind when I started this kind of little bit of a waffled statement is um well, what's the use cases? What are all use cases? I see a number. I think that there's a massive one for journalism, you
yeah,
know. getting ease of access to the feeds, because unfortunately I think there's a lot of lazy journalism out there where they just copy the BBC or
Mm,
whatever the Reuters is putting out or Associated Press is putting out, and then suddenly that becomes everything. There's a that I often imagine there's a bunch of people in a billiard room smoking cigars at midnight, deciding what tomorrow's newspapers are going to be saying, and then all news outlets are saying the same things. How does that really work?
yeah.
And compare yourself with something like LexisNexis, which is a platform that delivers a feed of information and I guess media output information from really credible sources from
Mm.
all over the world. So I think there's a use case there. Of course, there's the use case of I think the debates. I think a number of debates have popped up onto the platform as well. Something like has Brexit been a success? I think was one of the questions. And
Mm.
what a great question. But it's almost well, this question is also being asked almost every week in Newsnight or
If there's,
yeah,
and this is the like efficiency point. Like everyone is talking about the same thing. Why don't you measure it? Go to one place and measure it. And,
there it
and
is.
so the kind of polling element is another use case that I see. Like everyone votes on one platform and everyone knows what the end result is. Right. We would need to look into polling integrity and all that type of stuff. We wouldn't want people, manipulating anyway. But like what kind of power is that? And then I feel like the talking shops that you get on whatever it could be, Question Time or whatever news panel
Yeah,
show
yeah,
would just be so much more efficient because it's here's the data, here's what everyone's saying. um do we agree or disagree? And if you take a different stand, you can take a different stand, but it's the integrity of that polling and of that research and of that gathering of opinion, which is what we're trying to do, and the value we're trying to deliver to people.
is there a verification mechanism for onboarding?
Yeah, there is partial verification. We don't do ID checks because this is when we get into like, oh, if we did an ID check, then we would know what you think about things. So I think aspirationally, one of the things we want to look at is verified users.
Yeah,
Um, but how do we verify people? Because we don't want to do like, oh, just pay a monthly subscription and you're verified, you get a tick next to your name, whatever. We want to do, you have passed your identity checks, but there is no obligation for you to post as you, as your name, as like Joe Gorn or
yeah,
anyone else. You can call yourself, Flying Spaceman 456 and still have a vote that counts. That anonymity piece is so important. So how we approach verified users is different, but there is an element of verifying who you are in the current registration flow. But
yeah,
other value propositions and use cases we have are things like engaging with your constituency and the people who is in your constituency. Who else offers that? You could create your constituency page on Facebook, but not
yeah,
everyone has Facebook. Not everyone wants to sign up to Facebook. Maybe not everyone wants to sign up to the electorate platform, but we're there and we're offering a community for your constituency. We've got that interaction with elected officials as well. So we also have like mapping, so you can see what the boundaries of your constituency or your county, and you can create events for them, events in your local area, national events, whatever you want. So I think we've got loads of different use cases, and we've got great ideas for different use cases. So we want to look at potentially voting on the blockchain, and what would that look like? We want to do debating in the metaverse. What would that look like? But these are things that have requirements for huge amounts of infrastructure and resource that we just haven't got at the moment. But we're right at the beginning. We are looking for funding. We are approaching people to ask for it, but we just need someone to see the value that I think we both see in the platform,
yeah.
and I do.
I think that's a great time to wrap it up. Joe, thank you so much for spending a bit of time with me, kind of shooting the breeze on the electoral platform. Have a
Yeah.
good evening.
Cheers, James. You too.